Now, welcome back to The Line. Results of the 2018 PARCC tests are in. Statewide, both English language arts and math scores have gone up, with math increasing 1.9 points and language arts scores up 2.5 points from last year. However, if you look at the numbers on their own, only about 21.6% of students, about 2 out of 10, are proficient in math, and 31.1% of students, roughly 3 out of 10, are proficient in reading skills. Those numbers seem to reflect pretty poorly on our education in our state, although Governor Susana Martinez praised those gains that were made, Harry, and Public Education Department Secretary-designate Mr. Roszkowski said this is what happens when you stay the course. Are you impressed? Or do we have to do something more here?
I'm not particularly impressed because even in the best districts that performed well on the PARCC, like Farmington and Rio Rancho, 4 out of 10 were proficient in either of those two categories. So I think there's a number of things going on. So is there some improvement in the scores? There is, but if you look at the PARCC nationwide, only 4 states are using the full PARCC. We started with 24 in 2010, and we're one of them.
That's right.
Yeah, New Jersey, for example, is just about to drop out. Right. So I think it's more important to look at the state's data within itself as opposed to making comparisons with other states, because if you did the same sort of exercise with almost any other state, you would get very similar sorts of results. The problem is, I think, we're focusing on the test scores in isolation from all the other things that are really important. So we are an economically poor state, and so you have school districts in which you've got to think about education, not just in terms of what happens in the school, but almost from a public health standpoint.
Is that possible in a world of PARCC testing, where everything's just this narrow channel?
In the world of PARCC testing, in and of itself, if you view that as a panacea, it's not. If you're broadening the conversation about education to take in all of these other issues, including the fact that we've got a lot of kids that are coming to school hungry, that we are #1 in the country for kids that are food insecure in a given year.
That's right. Pick up on that, if you will. It's interesting. I mean, test scores are one thing, percentages of improvements are one thing, and we give them credit for that. But when you're coming from as far back as we are, is this aggressive enough for you? Are these reforms, can they be classified as reforms?
Well, I think the PARCC tests have held us back because there's been so much focus on it. We are losing the focus on what Harry has said is our ability to develop economically, our workforce needs, our public health needs. These are the things that are holding us back. This is why the kids are leaving the state, they don't have a job, and why companies are not coming in. So we need a broader view, I think, of education with more innovation from enterprising teachers, and that can happen within the public schools. And there was one critic, Tony Monfiletto, who has created a number of charter schools here in Albuquerque, and they don't do particularly well on the PARCC test, but they're speaking to people's needs in the healthcare field, in the building trades.
That's right.
And this is, his quote was, rather than betting on innovation, we've doubled down on bureaucracy. And I think that's what our system of testing has done. It hasn't served us well, and I'm heartened to see that both gubernatorial candidates are looking at something different.
Isn't that interesting? You would think that the Pierce people, or the current administration would be talking to the Pierce people to say this is a good time to follow up on our idea about education.
Stay the course.
Stay the course, right. The fact that he came out not crazy about it is interesting to me. Jeffrey, interesting as well that not all the districts made improvements. Harry mentioned some, but it kind of skewed the statewide results because Albuquerque didn't do all that much better. Santa Fe didn't do all that much better. Do you know what I mean? Is there something about these bigger districts that's a problem, or is it just the PARCC system in the overall?
A couple of things. Obviously, there's been some modest gains in terms of educational outcomes, but I don't know what that means because that's a function of the methodology called PARCC. So you can apply a methodology to anything and apply metrics to it and then come out with whatever outcome you may wish to derive, depending on your political perspective or any of those dynamics. I don't know that we're asking collectively the right question. To me, what methodology, whether it's PARCC or a more traditional engagement, traditional model, is going to provide outcomes that provide critical thinking, enlightened thought, a sense of self-autonomy.
Yes.
Because when a person has a sense of autonomy, curious thinking, critical thought, that person tends to be more motivated.
right.
And in a state where half our population is sitting at home eating donuts,
Sounds like better
and I've got to
college
pay
students.
taxes to subsidize them,
Right.
I'd like people a bit more motivated.
Right.
To me,
Is that
it's-
teachable, though? I hear your point, and I've heard
well,
others say this. Is
there
it
are
teachable?
studies that say
Okay.
motivation is correlated to your sense of self-concept,
Okay.
which is related to your sense of infinite possibility, your sense of critical thinking and exploring the world.
Okay.
I think that's the height and the very paragon, the very apotheosis of what education should be providing, notwithstanding how we argue about
I
methodology.
like that. It's good stuff there. Going to get you worked in here, Diane. I want to go back to something Harry said, the idea that New Mexico is one of 4 states who have taken and still doing whole cloth, whole hog parks. Some are doing partial, some have just gotten rid of it altogether. And in fact, 2010, it was up to 20 some odd states. It's been a precipitous drop. And so it makes one wonder, what is it about park that we're clinging on to, and perhaps, as Jeffrey and others are saying here, there's a better way here. If other states have looked at this and said there might be a better way to do this, maybe we should follow suit here and see what we can glean. I don't know, it's tricky.
Two things. One is it's always wise to learn from others.
Right.
But that kind of also says to me, the school districts that are being successful with this, what are they doing
Right.
within the park system
Okay.
that makes their students improve? And why can Santa Fe and Albuquerque not learn from that?
Right.
That it needs to be a more cohesive organization of school districts to learn best practices.
Sure.
The other thing is maybe we should go to another system. But we had one teacher say, and I'm sure there are others, geez, we just got this learned, we know how to do this, we know how to work creativity
That's right.
into it within the system, and now you're going to change it on us again.
That's fair enough.
So,
Fair enough.
so I think that if it's bad, then it should be changed.
Right.
But I don't want to. All I've heard over the last 15 years is everybody arguing between the unions, the teachers, and the state government, and that's including before Susanna
right.
became governor. And I'm just going, we've got a problem. First of all, you need to admit we got a problem. And the statement that the park says there are too many students not college or career ready, well, for crying out loud, if that statement wasn't true, we wouldn't have all these remedial classes in our universities.
Hitting Harry where it hurts now.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, it's tricky, Harry, when you really think about, again, Diane makes a good point. What are we creating here with these
Right, yeah.
students? You know, Jeffrey threw into this earlier.
Yeah.
Because they land at your doorstep at some
They do.
point at
They
UNM.
do.
And if you're not self-motivated, if you're not able
Right,
to do all
yeah.
the things that
How do you
Jeffrey just
make 'em?
talked about,
Yeah.
how do you make it? It's not your job to teach all that.
No,
unless you're in
it
college,
really isn't. There's
you know?
only so much that either K through 12 educators can do or university educators can do. The problem is, I think, we're focusing on such narrow measurements because if there's a number behind it, it must be true.
Right.
And I'll give you an example. So there may well be increases in reading scores. I'm not picking up a increase in the quality of writing based on the essays that I'm seeing, say, from freshmen every other year.
Gotcha.
So there's some things that the education system can do well, other things that it can't, and there are just some things that the education system can't make up for at all. I would absolutely agree with Jeffrey that things like perseverance and grit and resilience are really important. But I come back to the point that I made before. If you look at somebody's socioeconomic status and they're hungry, or they have a really problematic home life,
That's right.
That's not terribly. It's not terribly realistic to expect them to have all of those sorts of things.
That's right.
Well,
That's
I
right.
disagree. I came from a place such that my mother was a heroin addict when I was 8. I came from South Broadway. My grandparents had an 8th grade education, but they were engaged in my education. They demanded, they expected that my brother and I go to college. So they set expectations from the beginning. And I don't know that that's part of the conversation either. Education is, to me, a communal process, and it requires the engagement of parents, students, teachers, and community. If we just leave it on teachers and students themselves, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. You have to set expectations.
Especially if it's teachers that we use a stick on if they don't come up to snuff on these tests.
Well, that's
It
the
keeps them
industrial
from-
model of
Right.
education, and I think it's failing us. I think what Jeffrey's alluding to, and certainly what I, as a former high school teacher, is alluding to, is part of the art of teaching is figuring out those projects that can engage your
Yes.
students,
Right.
the internships, the getting them out into
Yes.
the community,
Yes.
that make them love learning, make them curious,
Yes.
and then finally maybe they will. I mean, we're not even talking about the kids that don't arrive on your doorstep.
Exactly.
That's right.
Those people have, drawn an intellectual blank, and certainly preparing for tests it makes them hate education.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah, and if we pick up on your point about the industrialization of education, so if we focus on numbers and metrics in a very narrow sense, what are we doing with teachers? We're basically treating them as cogs in the machine, as opposed to real professionals.
That's right. Good ending note there. Now, in just a moment, we'll look at money trickling in to pay for the art project along Central Avenue here in Albuquerque.